What lasts for half an hour is back for a new series and has turned the brown suit into a fashion statement.
Good evening and welcome back after 4 months in which, as predicted, we've seen an economic turnaround, an upturn in business confidence and nationwide prosperity. The trouble is, it all happened in Finland. Elsewhere in the headlines, at Heathrow, a British Airways official finds a cunning new way of stealing Virgin passengers. After the Ben Johnson scandal, there are fears that runners at the Asian Games may also have been using steroids. And at Ashford, there's a surprise for French railways when they discover that the British side of the Channel Tunnel rail link isn't finished yet. As Ian's first guest of the series, a man who's had the privilege of kissing Madonna and has 2 conical stab wounds in his chest to prove it, Jonathan Ross. And with Paul, someone who lists his recreations in Who's Who as gambling, gossip and golf, although we'd like to make clear to any children watching that this programme in no way endorses the practice of frittering your money away on golf. Please welcome Peter Cook. And so we muscle in on round 1, which I'll explain for those viewers recently arrived from Mars, features footage relating to 4 major news stories of the week. The slightly complicated question is, what are they? Ian and Jonathan, eyes down.
Oh, the first privatised toilet.
That's the Group 4 business, isn't it? That's the...
It is. They've privatised bits of the prison service. 4 prisoners escaped in the first week, which is good sense commercially, because then you catch them again and you charge for catching them. That's right. Then let them go again and then charge for catching them again.
Just put them on huge bits of elastic.
It's Group 4 Security, well done, whose prison escort service has allowed 4 prisoners to escape in its first week of operation, and whose managing director was hauled before a High Court judge to explain. Just as well his own company didn't have to escort him there, or he'd never have made it. Group 4 denied they were responsible. I'd have thought that was pretty obvious, really. They said that urgent design changes were being made to their vehicles. Bars will now be put on the windows of our vans. They'll be putting locks on the doors next. Paul and Peter, full marks if you can get this.
He's testing her on ducks. What type of duck is it? Quickly, quickly.
It is Mr. Patton.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Who was about to throw a child into the water to see if ducks really are vegetarian.
Yeah.
And set it as an exam question.
And students will soon be able to choose celebrities to sit the exams for them. So you could have Lloyd Grossman do your English O-level or whatever. Or Barbara Cartland do the cross-country run, that kind of thing.
It was the NUT conference that we were really looking for, but I suppose you skirted round it. I'll give you 1 for that. Delegates at the conference ruined General Secretary Doug McAvoy's plans by voting against teacher appraisal. But Mr. McAvoy hit back by saying he'd keep them sitting there until they jolly well voted in favour. Education Secretary John Patton recently sent a letter to Lord Griffin in which he misspelt the words advice and sincerely. A spokesman explained that sincerely was not misspelt, the final E was simply missing because the ink did not come out. It's a great excuse, isn't it? I did actually write my essay this week, sir, but the ink did not come out.
So what have the ducks got to do with it?
The ducks weren't integral to the NUT conference.
It's just a red herring, all those ducks right at the beginning, throwing us off the scent.
You might just show a picture of a concrete mixer and then say, well, it's the NUT conference.
Yeah, you might, actually.
Ian and Jonathan, a Euro scam for you.
Yeah, it's
It's very pretty.
Isn't it nice?
That was Jacques Attali, wasn't it? The fellow, the swarthy-looking gentleman in the middle there.
I think the clue was in Angus's question. What Euro scam is that?
Yes, I think that was a giveaway.
Well, I was building to it.
No. Attali managed to spend 200 million quid in 20 months. That's £1 million a month, which is more than Angus earns.
Allegedly. But there's a man in charge of it all, I believe, above Mr. Attali, called a Monsieur Pisselou.
He is.
Which is just an excuse for us to laugh at a funny French name.
I think he's head of toilets, actually, but maybe not. It's absolutely true. It is the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, set up to aid the economies of Eastern Europe, which has spent 200 of its £300 million budget on the reconstruction of its own headquarters and the development of its own expense account. A budget boss, Pierre Pisselou, defended the high spending.
No, it's worth laughing at a funny French name twice, I think.
Even if very feeble laugh both laugh.
He explained the £75 million spent on their offices, saying, "Our brief is to make people working in the bank happy. If they just divided the cash between them all, they'd be a lot happier." Bank boss Jacques Attali has at least put money into one company, the Czech airline CSA, which is also funded by Air France. And the chairman of Air France is magically Bernard Attali, Jacques' twin brother. The words frog and slimy immediately spring to mind. Paul and Peter, what family affair is this turning out to be?
Oh, yes, this is...
Clement Attali.
This is Bill Wyman and what's it, Zimmer frame. Bill Wyman, Mandy Smith. Oh, this is Mandy Smith's mother is marrying Bill Wyman's son, isn't she?
I was taught at school something, a little rhyme which was very helpful. Brothers and sisters have I none, but if that bastard marries my mother-in-law, he'll be my daughter.
Doesn't
Always
That's right.
worth remembering.
doesn't scan perfectly.
It doesn't scan, that's what made it so hard to learn. It had to be beaten into me.
Or rhyme at all.
Nor rhyme, no.
Nor rhyme. Yes, it is...
I suppose we were wrong. It was about the NUT.
Yeah. Someone's trying to push a proposal through for a new Euro duck.
Yes.
Ducks are to be standardised all over the world.
All of that's correct. It is Bill Wyman, your first answer was correct, who's said to be shocked and speechless as his 30-year-old son prepares to marry his 49-year-old ex-wife's mother. Apparently the age gap simply isn't big enough. Now his grandson will become his brother-in-law, his mother-in-law will become his daughter-in-law, and his ex-wife will become his step-granddaughter. We understand Carla Lane has already bought the rights to the sitcom. Over 200
and, Woody
relatives...
Allen's bought the rights to the film, I would have thought.
Over 200 relatives are invited to the wedding, but that only actually works out as 7 people. Although he didn't approve of the match, Bill admitted he was looking forward to having a granddaughter. That's if he hasn't already. Which story of everyday life brings us shuddering to the end of round 1. And the curious situation is that Paul and Peter only have 3, while Ian and Jonathan have a massive 4. Well, the rest of the show coming up, but before what remains to be seen, the brief diversion that is our caption competition. Ian and Jonathan have to look at this. Paul and Peter's looks more like this. But for now, let's revel in the charms of our second headlines round. Paul, you're contractually obliged to begin with Police Chief's fury over Lego car thief.
This is Lego have introduced a new sort of range of building bricks, sort of urban wasteland kind of thing, and one of the characters featured in it is a sort of car thief, and the police are fury about it, particularly the chiefs.
Group 4 actually brought out a toy in the shape of a car thief, but when you open the package, it's missing.
There's a
Yes.
sort of Lego crack dealer as well, and you can build a little sort of...
Yes, it's the 1993 Lego catalogue, which has outraged police chiefs by depicting a plastic Lego joyrider skidding on 2 wheels and sending dustbins flying. Police are looking for someone with stubble and dark glasses, but experts warn that he could have already changed himself into a windmill. In fact, it's become such a contentious issue that LEGO have forbidden us to show the Joyrider toy on screen, and this is the piece that we're not allowed to show, so I'm very sorry about that, but there's nothing we can do about it. Also in the range are a LEGO shoplifter and a squad of LEGO West Midlands police who've already arrested Action Man for the crime. Peter.
The sweet smell of success is, well, as everybody all know, capital C 20H24O.
Yes.
I think it's something to do with the fact that the rich pong a bit, or the very worthwhile, hard-working people who either sweat at their own brows and everything else have acquired vast sums of money and become powerful, sweat something which attracts ants.
I'll have to tell you then, in that case, it's the invention of artificial aromas to entice people into shops.
Or ants.
Or ants. The smells include coconut oil in travel agents, cut grass in greengrocers and leather in car showrooms. Let's hope Sock Shop never joined the scheme. And quite what Anne Summers has in her shops doesn't bear thinking about. The purpose is to encourage customer loyalty by using a corporate perfume to express a company's personality. So you'll presumably get the smell of hopeless farts in Dixon's.
What aftershave are you wearing this evening, Angus?
I don't wear aftershave. I never wear aftershave.
You've got a very hairy ear.
The C20H24...
This one's quite hairy as well, actually.
It's even hairier, this one.
He's a very well-balanced man, then.
Well, I'd
Pull
fall
that
over
bit,
if I
does it
didn't.
disappear on the other side?
Yes.
Sort of mental floss.
Last year it was brown suits, now it's hairy ears.
What's the word for that, then? It would be, because nose hair is nasal hair, that would be what? Sort of
Oral.
ear hair.
Oral.
But oral hair is something you only
Get
do
in your
when-
mouth.
Yeah.
So what hair do you get in your mouth?
It gets caught in your teeth, doesn't it?
Yes.
Too near the Mandy Smith question. Let's get on.
Oral AU, I think. Jonathan.
Yes, Angus.
Where am I?
You're in the middle of 4 very lovely men.
Oh, right, yes. Jonathan.
Angus.
A touch of the Trekkies for
Okay.
you, if you pardon the expression. Klingon lingo.
Klingon lingo all the way. Well, Klingons, the only Klingons I've ever encountered are the ones, the ugly ones in Star Trek. And the lingo would be what they speak. I think they're probably some of those incredibly dull fans have come up with the language, the Klingon language entirely, so they can probably hold incredibly dull conversations that no one else is interested in anyway about Star Trek in Klingon.
In Klingon.
And say things like, beam me up Scotty, which of course is illegal between consenting adults under the age of 21. Not getting in any kind of trouble.
Only on the Isle of Man.
Oh, is that the...
Yeah, that's true.
Isn't it that there's American universities have started to teach Klingon as a language so that students can say things to each other like, which means, I like your anorak.
Very good, Paul. 2 points. It's the story that Klingon, the language of the aliens in Star Trek, is now being taught in American universities. Phrases for beginners start with tak dak makhom, meaning we will meet in the cocktail lounge, and julwak, meaning I have a headache. The kind of phrases that would be genuinely useful for a Klingon are, where did you get those ridiculous ears? Who's that fat bloke in the wig? And why do all your trousers stop just above the ankles? In response...
It's a bit rich you having to go at somebody else's ridiculous ears.
Old Bushy over here.
Yeah.
I think Tufty is the name we're looking for, isn't it?
A Walkman would be wasted on you. It'd be like trying to listen to a radiogram in the middle of a forest.
If you want me to speak up at any time, I'm more than happy.
I feel a running joke coming on. And finally in this round, Ian. What brought about a £1,200 crunch?
Yeah, this was a man who was fined £1,200 for dropping a crisp packet in a car park. and there was one of those Lego policemen on hand. So he got fined £1,200 for dropping a crisp packet, whereas someone 3 courts down got fined 500 quid for rape. One of those true and very funny stories.
Yes, it is Vaughan Watkins, who was fined £1,200 for dropping an empty crisp packet out of his car. He claims he can't pay the fine, which means that he could find himself being sent to prison for a month, or half an hour if Group 4 had anything to do with it. In another ridiculous judgment, the owner of Mick the Mongrel was fined £1,000 after Mick was found having sex with his dog collar off. I'm sure the Bishop of Gloucester knows the feeling.
Bishop of Galway, surely.
Well, you should know, Paul.
Has the Bishop of Gloucester been at it as well?
Afraid so.
They're all at it.
Right.
Allegedly.
How'd you get to be a bishop? Sounds quite a good job.
Which curious anomalies herald the end of this brief shambles, at which point the near exciting situation is that both teams have a classic 7. And so, with a confident stride and full trouser, we march into our decidedly odd one out round. 4 great British institutions, which one is the Grand National? Paul. The usual pairings for you: Her Majesty the Queen and yourself, and Jonathan Ross and Nigel Kennedy.
Seem to be wearing lipstick there.
You'd been out with the bishop, hadn't you?
I don't mind pandering to his needs.
Nigel,
Is this a hello question? Is it all these people have appeared in hello?
apart from Paul.
No.
That's right, you're always in hello, aren't you?
I try to be whenever possible because my mortgage demands it, but... But
I
it's
feel like
nice...
I know you personally.
That's a rather tough rule from the Building Society.
It's either that or they take the baby back.
My lot just say monthly payment.
Is this a snobbery accent question?
Yes, it is.
Oh, yes, it's rubbish.
Estuary.
This is
Very
estuary
good of you to
English.
say so. It is.
Yes.
It's all these people speak. How can I put this?
Very slowly so we understand you. But you know what's so terribly unfair about this is this is because she's the only one who speaks the Queen's English. But of course she's the only one who can speak the Queen's English. She's the only one who's the Queen.
Yes.
Well,
I just always
being
thought-
a German, she's studied it. hasn't she?
But I mean, that's an unfair question because Nigel Kennedy's is fake estuary English.
Yeah, he talks like that, doesn't he?
Whereas both of us are terribly proud that it's the real thing, aren't we?
That's right.
And he says, "Monster, I must take a lot of hard drugs, man."
You know what? You should take up impressions.
I think you're right.
Because if I hadn't been looking at you, I'd have thought he was here with me then.
The answer is that, according to linguists, all of them, or all of you, except the Queen, are responsible for the spread of what's known as estuary English, so called because it's as clear as mud and flows through a wide mouth. According to experts.
Oh,
of
shut up
course.
and comb your ears.
They claim it's
Just
becoming.
read it, Andy.
Go on,
trying
Tufty,
to,
don't
I'm
give up,
trying
come on.
An estuary English speaker would call Paul Merton this, Jonathan Ross this, and Nigel Kennedy this.
So listen, if Nigel Kennedy had agreed to do this show this week, then would I have been the...
Peter, royalty with a difference for you. Peter Mayle. Faye Weldon.
Yes, very well done. Gorgeous, aren't they?
Sorry to be keeping you up. Salman Rushdie.
And that
Her Majesty the
well-known
Queen.
German-speaking... That's Fräulein von Buckingham.
That's the danger of sun lamps there, look.
Everybody apart from Fräulein Windsor, or Frau Windsor, have at one time or another worked as copywriters in advertising agencies. Faye Weldon wrote, what was it? Go to work on an egg, or a leg, I forget which.
Yes. And the
Such as-
Queen?
She didn't. So
She was used in an advert. Well, that's a
for
Benetton.
Benetton.
Yeah.
Very good. A perfect answer for 2 points. It's that all of them wrote famous advertising campaigns, except the Queen, who is a famous advertising campaign for Benetton. If the Queen and all her children were black, it would be interesting to see how many of her grandchildren would be. Peter Mayle wrote the line, "Nice one, Cyril," for a Wonderloaf commercial. What a shame he hasn't written anything of comparable literary value since. And Salman Rushdie wrote the Aero slogans, "Delectabubble" and "Incredibubble." And now, of course, he's in serious trouble bubble. Jonathan, 4 young upstarts for you. Lord Grade.
Of course, Lord Grade.
Lady Grade.
Oh, yes.
James
What's that in
Gilby.
his mouth?
And your mate, Jeremy Beadle.
Ah, yes. Gilby, we know better as Squidgy, of course, don't we? So have all but Lady Grade had something going on with Princess Diana? Would that be...
Well, you said that.
No, I didn't. I didn't say that. I was merely testing the water and you misheard me due to the amount of fuzz in your ear. I think, no, what it might be is would it, a stab in the dark here, would it be that all but Lady Grade are practical jokers of some esteem because Beadle has tricked us all into thinking he's a television presenter? So that would...
Not the only one.
I'll tell you, it's that they all own video phones, apart from James Gilby, although I'm sure he'll be getting one just as soon as MI6 can install it. The video phones are now on sale and likely to catch on, so it could be the end of such phrases as, "I'm afraid I'm in a meeting," and "not at all, I've been up for hours." Also, burglars will no longer ring up to see if you're in, they'll ring up to see what you've got. And how big the dog is. And finally, Ian, John Burt, Paul McCartney, Bill Clinton, and J. Edgar Hoover.
They've all released singles. They've all been in bands.
J. Edgar Hoover's been in a band.
Yeah.
He was in the Hoover Tones.
Yeah,
The Hoover Tones.
which became the Tremolos.
Oh, right, I remember.
And-
Kathy Kirby toured with them.
That's right,
yeah.
Dave, Dee, Dozy, Beaky, Mick and J. Edgar Hoover.
Yes, it all comes flooding back.
McCartney was always being caught with dope. Bill Clinton admitted he smoked it but didn't inhale.
No.
Edgar Hoover was just wild on smack the whole time he was running the FBI.
And
He was
also
knee-deep in
fortunately
whores and smack, wasn't he?
He was.
Knee-deep?
And the bishop popped round as well.
Can you be knee-deep in Hort? I suppose you can, yeah.
dead. Don't even think about it.
Oh, it's too late, I've started now.
No. I better give you the answer rather quickly, I think.
No, don't disturb me, I'm all right. OK, I'm ready now.
Right, okay. The answer is J. Edgar Hoover, as all the others gave their wives a job. Whereas Hoover gave his boyfriend, Clyde Tolson, a job as Deputy Director of the FBI.
And some very nice lingerie as well, I was told.
Yes, that's absolutely right.
I thought Hillary gave Bill a job, didn't she?
Possibly vice versa, I don't know.
President of the US he got, not bad.
I wonder which...
Hoover sucks but did not inhale.
I'm so glad it was you that said that. Yes.
I've got this horrible feeling the last thing I see before I close my eyes for sleep tonight will be the picture you've just put in my mind.
John Burt Limited employed his wife, Mrs. Jane Burt Enterprises Incorporated plc, as his secretary. And Macca gave his wife Linda the job of singing on his records, and who knows, one day she may manage it. Which marital bliss brings us to the final death throes of round 3, and the current concern surrounds neither team, because they both have a fulsome 9 points. And so we gird our collective loins for the onslaught of our missing words round. Ian and Jonathan, you go first. Tory row as Major makes a date with who?
With Jeffrey Archer's gardener. Would that be... Because that was... used to be a man,
Yes.
and has gone in for a bit of gender realignment. Was Richard Overy, is now Rachel Testicle, I believe, and...
Euro duck.
Am I?
He's making a date with Salman Rushdie.
Salman Rushdie.
Next. Offenders given what under new law?
A really big party with a big bouncy castle on the front lawn under new law.
Given
true,
cheap to
but
sell.
Given guns, drugs, stolen cars.
I
Edgar
won't,
Hoover's
actually,
underwear.
thank you. No. Soft
good-
sentences is in fact
Are they?
the answer that...
Is that sort of
you
extra
probably
English then,
wouldn't
soft sentences? Is that kind of...
Quite
they talk to them
possibly.
in a
The
way they
judge
can't
says, I'll
understand.
give you 12 years.
12 years for messing about and stop it, you're on your bleeding bye.
Yes.
That was my Paul Merton impersonation. That was good, wasn't it?
It was uncanny. Health Service faces pressure to team up with who?
Group 4 security.
Is it Ernie Wise?
Not as far as we know. Private sector is a slightly disappointing answer.
Sector privé.
The priest did what at Trivial Pursuit?
Priests are absolutely crap at Trivial Pursuit.
Not as such. Stole my wife is, in fact, the slightly strange answer. Paul and Peter, yours begin like this. Cocaine has left my brain what, says David Bowie?
In better shape than ever.
Is it in Chiswick? It's like a sieve, isn't it? He said like in tatters or
Absolutely
a sieve.
right, 2 points.
Full of holes.
Like a sieve is correct. What put spark back in sex life?
Electric chair.
No,
Janet
it's
Street Porter?
animals. It's a sort of
Nylon
animal.
sheets.
Bull put spark back in sex life. Next, BBC plans epic hunt for what?
Angus Deaton's ear hair clipper.
Yeti.
Is correct.
Yes,
Yeti.
And finally, Tories seek to delay what?
Their inevitable dismal failure and collapse. Maybe. I don't know.
That'll bring the Tories down.
Moment
No,
of sexual ecstasy?
I won't, thank you, no. Royal male breakup is the answer you probably weren't going to get. All of which mental floundering brings us spinning to the end of tonight's contest, and the sad conclusion, for them anyway, is that this week's non-starters are Ian and Jonathan with 11, and this week's runaway successes are Paul and Peter with 13. So, a couple of free air tickets to America for our winners, a couple of free Hoovers to our losers. But before they slope off into the night, it's time to briefly regurgitate our caption competition. Paul and Peter, yours was this.
Oh, what have you done with my hat, you stupid cow?
Oh, I know
I
what
think
he's saying.
he's asking her to remove her left thumb from somewhere, isn't he? Wouldn't that be?
Ian and Jonathan, this was yours, I believe.
Queen Mother saying, is there a buffet on it?
Giant Queen Mother causes real chaos. That yellow
Worked for
paint on the
Daily
front
Mail.
of the train is the same colour as her teeth. And they actually went to her for the original colour.
You can buy that as part of the new Dulux range, you know. Like you can get the peach blossom white and you get the Queen's mum stinky old teeth white as well.
On which familiar note we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Jonathan Ross, Paul Merton and Peter Cook. And I leave you with news that following a gruelling tour of duty in Eastern Europe, British soldiers get into practice for a well-deserved 1830 holiday. Back home, there are initial reports that privatising the London to Southend rail line hasn't eased overcrowding. And in London, the FA opens the brand new George Best School of Football Excellence. Good night.
And the two teams are liable to be back next week at the same time.